Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Preparing Your Goalball Players. I'm Jamie Salter. My day job is a lecturer at York St John University, specialising in sport and exercise therapy and sport and exercise science. I'm currently working with the GB men's senior squad as a physical development coach. Dale, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, so I'm Dale Forsdyke. Again, my day job, or the job that pays the mortgage, is a lecturer at York St John University. But like Jamie, I've got a quite extensive applied experience, and together we're both supporting the GB men's team. And what we really wanted to do is share some of the things that we're working with the top level men with, so that you can impart some of those strategies or be confident in imparting some of those strategies with the players that you're supporting at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll work through these slides and show you a little bit about how we feel you can help prepare your players. So we've got a picture here of the squad that we're working with, the GB men's squad, and the comment on the side there says you don't have to be elite to prepare like an elite player. And what we're going to aim to cover over the next few slides is just some of the habits and some of the behaviours that we think are traits of elite players that you don't really need to be elite to have them, and you don't really need to be elite to build them into your daily practice, and they can help you perform better on the court. So some of the things that we've seen from good players, but also that we've taken from other environments or organizations that we've been part of, that we feel develop elite habits. Dale, anything you want to add? Yeah.
There's a perception out there that to mirror best practice, you've got to have lots of money and lots of resources. And really what we're trying to, the message we're trying to get out today is actually we can help that development process from grassroots all the way to GB level, actually with just some common sense methods and strategies, which we want to show you today. So imparting elite habits at any level doesn't have to cost a lot of money, shouldn't have to be an onerous task, because there's some relatively quick wins for us here.
Yeah, okay. So we've got here on the left-hand side of the screen, you've got a young goalball player, recreational goalball player, and on the right-hand side, you've got an international competing at the Paralympic Games. And as Dale's just iterated there, what we're trying to do is show that you don't have to be an elite player. You could be playing at any level of your sport, of your goalball, whether it's you're participating once a week, whether you're part of a more structured development program. But these habits will allow you that to progress down that journey towards being elite. Whether or not you make it to playing at the Paralympics is another thing, but what we want you to be able to do is enjoy your sport and be able to perform at the highest level possible. And it doesn't matter where you are. So it's that journey that we're working towards on that path. Dale?
Yeah, and as a coach of goalball, it's unrealistic to think that every participant you have will turn out to be a GB international. It would be lovely, and your CV would look lovely as well. However, we do have, and I do believe that we've got the responsibility to give every single one of our goalball athletes the skills and qualities to give them the best chance of doing so. So whether you are on the left-hand side, and might be your athlete, it's his first taster session of goalball, or whether you're an athlete, a goalball athlete at the Olympic Games, these are elite habits that I think we can give to everybody, so that we're giving every single athlete the chance to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah, well, that's the key message from today. So I think starting out, one of the slides that really embody this is these kind of traits that we can see here. So on the left hand side, you've got the quote, "Everyone has a desire to win, but only champions have the desire to prepare." And that kind of goes along with, you know, the work you do behind closed doors allows you to perform on stage, things like that. There's lots of traits like that, but everybody wants that success on the court in front of people. They want to win the matches, they want to score the goals, they want to do that kind of public display of success, but very few people actually want to put the time in where maybe nobody are looking, and that's what we're trying to instill within our players, and obviously trying to show you that you can do that as well, is the things maybe away from that don't cost anything, that allow you, as Dale said there, to put you in that position to have every chance of success, whether you are an amateur player or whether you have aspirations to be an elite player. And the 10 things that require zero talent on the right there work down to being prepared. So things like being on time, making sure that you plan your journey, making sure that you have transport organized, whether that's public transport or whether you can get a lift off somebody or whatever. That's making sure that you allow adequate time to be there, so that when the session starts, you can put everything into that. When you're there, your work ethic is important, and your effort levels need to be as high as possible to maximize the opportunity that you have being in that environment with other people. Body language says a lot about how you feel. So, if you're working hard and you're enjoying it, then your body language will be natural. But sometimes we have to work hard and we're not enjoying it. So it's important that we look after our body language, and it's always positive and showing that we want to be there. But that also helps other people. Additionally, if you're finding things hard, negative body language can allow the other team to see weakness. And what we don't want is people getting on top of that. So remembering to have positive body language at all times. Putting energy and attitude into the sessions, so turning up, as we said, on time, but with a high level of energy and a good level of attitude in terms of wanting to maximize that. We know that goalball players are particularly passionate about their sport, and it's really good that we demonstrate that in the right way by putting everything into our sessions. Being coachable is something that, as coaches, myself and Dale love that in people, when we can see that they've done the hard work beyond the court or the pitch or wherever we're working with them, and they're adopting these habits, and they're being coachable and listening to what we're saying and taking on those additional things and doing those extra bits. So doing their home program, maybe doing some additional stretching or some yoga or some foam rolling if they're feeling sore, and all of that contributes to being prepared and giving you 100% effort on the court. Dale, anything on there?
Yeah, so what I've done and introduce it with some athletes that I work with is we form some non-negotiables for players. And these are the non-negotiables for players that we should expect. We should expect for players to be a good teammate. So realize that their body language and what they say can have a positive or negative effect on everybody else around them. Being coachable, and being there to learn and be scholars and with a growth mindset is really, really important. And being prepared is kind of emboldened on this slide, because this is where we're going now. In so much as a coach, how can we empower or enable our goalball athletes to turn up prepared? What does that actually look like? And so we're going to go through that about what they may need to be prepared with, and support that with maybe a strategy that you could use.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to start talking over this concept, Dale, as it's your kind of your?
I think we need to realise that when we turn up as coaches or support staff working with goalball athletes, that they are 24-hour human beings. I think across many sports, we seem to reduce these athletes down to the maybe hour, 2-hour contact that we have with them. And by that, we expect them to miraculously arrive prepared and miraculously recover well. Well, actually, some athletes just don't have the knowledge, the understanding, the skills to be able to do that. So I think, again, our responsibility as coaches and support staff is to maybe give athletes the skills and the tools to be able to arrive prepared, but following training, be able to recover effectively. Athletes will undoubtedly bring lots of baggage with them. Baggage from school, baggage from work, baggage from traveling, that I think we need to be mindful of upon their arrival, because that's going to dictate the quality of our session.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, is the 24-hour goalball athlete, is that we often see these people on the court for an hour or 2 hours. We see our athletes for 2 hours a day. Maybe they've been at school all day, or college or university or whatever they've been at, but we'll see them for 2 hours a day. The other 22 hours of that day allows them to prepare, these athletes to prepare to be able to perform when we have them there. If they're stressed, as you mentioned there, if they're tired, or if they've not eaten adequately, they're not going to be able to prepare on the pitch, and these athletes are going to struggle whilst on the court, and therefore their whole performance is going to be impacted. So the following slides are examples of how the athletes or us as coaches can facilitate these athletes preparing in those 22 hours away from the court, ready to achieve success whilst on it. Okay. I think it's just a good point in the slideshow here for you to pause the recording that we've got and just consider the question that's in front of you here. So what things affect whether your players arrive prepared or not? So as if you're a coach, or as a parent, or even if you're a player in this situation, what can you do, or what can you consider whether your players arrive prepared or not? So what things do they need to do before they arrive with you to ensure that they are ready? So it's worth pausing the video at this point to just have a think about that. Okay, I'll just briefly summarize some of the things that we feel would help prepare your players at that point. So we've got 4 corners here that contribute to the success of a goalball player on the court, and we've got food, activity, stress, and fluid. So obviously we'll start with food in the top corner. Goalball is a demanding sport. You're up and down off the ground. It's highly intense. If you're in a competition, you likely play multiple times a day, sometimes over multiple days, 2 or 3 days more if you're in a big competition. So having enough energy in your body is really important, and you've got to consider the foods that you might have in between these matches as well. So it's about having adequate food stores leading up to a training session or a competition, but also the type of energy that you might want during the day in between these matches, and the timing of that. So Dale will talk over an example shortly about the goalball players, and if they're playing at 11 o'clock in the morning, what the timing of their intake might be. But what you don't want to be doing is getting up really late, rushing out of the house, grabbing something, eating that on the train, and then going straight onto the court before during your warm-up, feeling like you haven't really digested your food before a competition. So it's about timing your intake so that you've got that in adequate time so that can digest, and then the energy can start to be released in time before the game. I'll just talk over activity before I hand over to Dale for the others. It's activity. So doing too much, we talk about, quite common in our field is training load or load stress, I guess. Too much activity, so doing too much, in terms of being on the court. Maybe you've got school PE games, maybe you play other sports as well. That can weigh you down and that can make you tired. Additionally, on the flip side of that, not doing enough can under-prepare you or undercook you, as we say, for your sport. So if you play goalball once a week and you have an hour or 2 hour training session, that's really important, really intense, but you don't do anything else during the week, you're probably not setting yourself up to be able to handle the demands of that really intense goalball session or match. Whereas maybe doing something 2 or 3 times a week in addition, whether it be a gym exercise, whether it be running or cycling or swimming, or even some more goalball sessions, that would allow you to feel prepared and be able to handle the demands, and you may even find that you enjoy it a little bit more. There's a warm-up that we've prepared in session 2, which we'll talk over shortly, that can help you develop some strength, some endurance, and some core stability for goalball specifically, and doing that 2 or 3 times a week will help develop some of the fundamentals in terms of fitness for handling the sport. But then equally, we talked about food for preparation, but also food and having adequate recovery is really important after your training session, after your match, to make sure that your body is able to recover and then adapt, ready for the next training session that you have. Dale, do you want to talk over fluid and stress?
Yeah, so in terms of fluid, we need to make sure that our bodies are properly hydrated before arriving for training or competition. An easy thing to think about there is the color of the urine, the clear color of it. And again, whilst that might be difficult for VI athletes, getting the message, which is don't wait until you are thirsty before you drink, and actually hydrating is a behavior. So drinking regular and often versus downing a pint or a litre of water is really important. So that is important. Fluid intake, hydration is directly related with to physical and cognitive performance. So we need to make sure that. The type of fluid that you want to take in, again, if we think of the demands of goalball, and for health reasons, we don't really need to be getting our athletes to take in sugary drinks. Again, in other contexts where certainly I've worked, we've banned sports drinks. We've also banned any fizzy drinks arriving at training that are high in sugar, because to meet the demands of that sport, water or diluted squash is absolutely fine. So again, you don't have to encourage your athletes to have sports drinks. Based on the amount of time they spend on court and the intensity of that activity, the water will be absolutely fine. And really, I would be aiming for during that session for them to drink a big sports bottle full of water. And as a coach, you allowing regular drinks breaks, whilst maybe you're imparting some technical or tactical based information to the group, is a really good opportunity for them to take some water on board. And then the timing of it. So your bladder only holds a certain amount of water or fluid. So again, the message is little and often, because again, if you drink too much and you overinflate or overfill your bladder, you're going to be wanting the toilet a lot. And again, that can get in the way of preparations, warm-ups, those sorts of things. And especially as we tend to urinate more when we're a little bit nervous, as we might be before performing, that's going to be important. And the last column on there relates to stress. Stress has a direct relationship with performance and also injury risk. So let's, and also well-being. So let's not forget that your athletes bring all their stress with them. And that relates to life stress. So what's going on outside, and sometimes our athletes have chaotic lifestyles. Certainly the athletes have a number of unique challenges that other athletes may not have. So how well do we acknowledge some of those life stresses? Do we ask them, how are you today, upon arrival, to get a gauge of their readiness? But let's not forget that sports stress adds to that. So we can either amplify stress or we can detract away from it a little bit. So we need to maybe capture that on arrival. And then in terms of stress, one way that we be able to combat with that is around our sleep quantity and our sleep quality. And this is a really hot topic with VI athletes that we might pick up on a little bit later. But again, sleeping is a habit, is a behavior. Even if you're struggling to sleep as a VI athlete, trying to keep to a routine and trying to keep the conditions to which you go to bed, high quality, so a cool room, well ventilated room, should help with that sleep quality.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. So on reflection of that, another opportunity for you to pause the video here is, in your context, you'll know your situation better than us in terms of whether you're a coach, parent, or a player. So how can you individually help your Goalball players to prepare better? What can you do to help them arrive at your sessions, or can you do as a player to help you arrive at your training sessions as a better prepared Goalball player? So have a think about that now. Okay, go on, Dale. I'll let you talk over this again. It's your.
So, like I said, I've worked in a number of applied backgrounds, but principally a lot with youth athlete development. Now, that isn't to say that this strategy that I'm going to outline to you can't be used with senior or adult players. It's just that seems to work, and that was a real protagonist to why I needed to give the athletes a little bit of awareness of how to prepare the best. So I was sat there thinking, well, how can I get my athletes who compete in a game at maybe 11:30 a.m. on a Saturday the best chance of arriving prepared, ready to perform at their absolute best? And so we came up with the 24-hour clock principle. Now, it's really easy, and it's a really easy message to send out to get parents involved, to highlight to players that 24 hours before training, but more importantly, 24 hours before a competition or tournament, everything you do counts to either help you perform to your best or has the opposite of that, hold you back from performing to your best. So if you want to move to the next slide, what I've done is I've put a template here based on a team I worked with previously who had a game at 11:30 a.m. on a Saturday. If you wanted to use this, and there's a template later on, you can fiddle around with when your 24-hour clock will start ticking. So, for example, this clock that's on this slide, if they were playing at 10:30 on a Saturday, then it will start at 10:30 on a Friday. And all I've done is I've chunked the clock up into 3-hour sections, 6-hour sections, sorry, to reflect that. So we go from 10:30 Friday to 4:30 Friday to 10:30 p.m. Friday to 7:30 Saturday a.m. And in there are a couple of hotspots that I identified, and a couple of questions that you can get athletes to reflect on as a little bit of an educational tool. So what are they doing about food, their energy intake, the type of energy? Is there enough energy? We know that actually quite a lot of athletes based on, or high-level athletes based on what they do, probably don't take on board enough energy. Their fluid, their stress, their sleep, their activities. But on this slide, I identified a number of hotspots, which were around lunchtime on the Friday, which were around what are they doing on Friday at school or in their job, which were around what they're having for their tea on a Friday. Sorry, I'm Yorkshire, so I refer to it as tea. Other people might refer to it as the evening meal or dinner. Again, what time are they going to bed? What's the sort of quality of their sleep? And then when are they waking up on Saturday? And for example, when are they eating? So if you want to move to the next slide, I've actually, for each of these hotspots that I've just outlined, I've kind of put a few questions that you might want to reflect on yourself, or you may want to get your players to reflect on. So hotspot 1 is, what are your players eating and drinking for lunch on a Friday? And that's really quite tricky because, again, we know that they need to take on board enough energy, the right type of energy, enough fluid the day before, so they're set up ready to perform on that day. Hotspot number 2 is, are the in-school or out-of-school activities fatiguing and exhaustive? Now, depending on the age of players that you've got, that might be school-based activities. If it's older players, that could be university activities, college activities, or with senior players, it could be what they're doing in their workplace. Are they doing things on a Friday that are fatiguing, which means they're turning on Saturday actually a little bit depleted? The third one, what are your players eating, drinking for their evening meal, or like I refer to, their tea? Because again, that needs to be high in energy. That needs to be, again, that good fluid intake habits as well. Number 4, what are your players eating, drinking before bed? We want, again, to make sure players take on board some energy before bed, ideally protein rich. And what time and under what conditions are they going to bed? We talked about sleep quality is quite tricky for VI athletes, but we also need to think about, what are the conditions that the athletes are going to bed. So are they using phones, iPads before bed? Are they, for instance, False alarm there.
Sorry, is that you?
That was my phone going off. So we've then got if they're going to a bed in a well ventilated in a cool room, they're going to sleep better. But from the stress angle, have they packed their bags prior to the morning? You can imagine some of your athletes, and maybe the more nervous athletes about their performance, the more conscientious ones, unless they've packed their bags and they know where all their equipment is, then that's going to be bugging them in the night. And that might wake them up and then impact or negatively impact their sleep quality. Number 5 is how much sleep and what quality your player is getting, and is this adequate for them to recover? And number 6 is what time are your players waking up if you are going to be competing on a morning? Jamie alluded to the getting out of bed late, not in time, so pulling all their clothes on, eating whatever they can get their hands on, or eating in the car of whatever they can get in. And don't forget, if your players are playing on a morning, their breakfast is their pre-match meal. So them having an apple when they've got maybe a full day of competition isn't going to cut it. So breakfast is their pre-match meal. So that needs to have enough energy and enough fluid to maintain them going forwards.
Yes, so some great examples there of the 24-hour clock. I think it's important to recognise here that if you're competing after school or after college or after work and it's on an evening, then the same rules and the same principles apply. It just needs your clock shifting, and the timings of things will shift around. But all of the same components are relevant in terms of the sleep that you had the night before, what are you eating, and your pre-match or your pre-competition meal, if that's the case, might be your lunch. Then what's your recovery meal afterwards? How are you getting there? Are you setting off in enough time? That kind of thing. So whatever time you're working in, the principle of what Dale spoke through there is the same. It just needs your clock shifting a little bit to figure out where the start and end point is. And I think that the final part on that is the 24-hour clock that Dale spoke about there is in preparation for your event, but preparation for the next training session or event happens as soon as you finished the one that you're in. So the 24 hours after competition is equally as important for recovery. So what are you eating after the competition or after the training session, the sleep that you get after that, the next day, do you do some, you might feel a bit sore or a bit stiff. So are you doing some recovery based exercise, some active recovery maybe? And then how does that feed into, the next clock for the next session or the next competition? So this 24-hour cycle is continuous, and you just need to kind of apply these questions as and when you see fit throughout the week, but making sure that you're adequately preparing, but then also adequately recovering as well. This slide here is just an example for you to obviously print this out at home, and we'll provide the PDF document to the conference delegates from this. But you can print this out, you can write on it, you can use it as a template, and then just using this at home. It might be worth you having a little activity to think about how you can apply this with the athletes that you work with. Just before we finish up, really, I think this is a nice opportunity for us to tee up at the second session that we're doing. So with this being our first one about general preparation and the things to consider with leading up to an event or training session, one of the things that we've done for the second session is we've developed a goalball specific warm-up and put together a demonstration video so that there's no debate about how to do exercises and things like that. It's far easier to show you in a video than in this type of format, rather than last year when we did it in person. So we've developed a ramp warm-up. So the ramp stands for raise, activate, mobilize, and potentiate. So there's 4 key phases of that warm-up that help to maximize the output, but also ensure that the athletes are ready to go into the competition or training session at full speed. So there's kind of several facets to this and several aims about, and the first one would be developing resilience to injury and the ability to handle the demands of sport. So as we mentioned before, goalball is a physically demanding and intense sport, and if you're not robust enough to handle that demands of getting up off the ground, throwing yourself in front of a heavy ball, repeatedly throwing with explosive power, then you might end up breaking down with an injury, and that's what we want to try and do, is avoid that and keep people on the court as much as possible. So some of the activities in this are designed to help with injury prevention. This is a really good way of what us in our field call microdosing. So rather than doing an hour in a gym or even an hour and a half in the gym or whatever 2 or 3 times a week, this is a 10 to 15 minute microdose, and it exposes all of the participants to some mobility. So mobility and flexibility are kind of used interchangeably, some speed and some strength activities, which are a really good way of developing fitness in young people and goalball athletes of any age, to ensure that they can handle the demands. And what we've done here is session 2 is an opportunity for you to watch the video in advance, and then we've offered a Q&A session where Dale and myself can talk you through anything, provide any additional context, or talk you how you might change the exercises if you're not quite up to doing the ones as we've shown on the screen there. Dale, did you want to add anything on the warm-up that we developed?
Yeah, warm-ups are a really powerful tool. And we need to give the message out to players just how powerful and brilliant warming up correctly is. You know, so, and we need coaches to be able to champion warming up correctly with the right quality and the right intent. It works better if coaches deliver this. Athletes are more likely to adhere and comply to what we ask them to do, which is why we've produced a quite simple, straightforward warm-up that hopefully can be used across grassroots with very little resources. It's time efficient as well. Warm-ups are really cool. They do 4 things that I would really love you to champion within your own context. Number 1, it's going to make us prepared physically. So it's going to make us perform better physically based on some of the exercises that we've put in, especially the potentiation ones. It's going to, again, prepare us mentally. It's that switch from being social to chatting to then me now integrating into a more formal, structured, hopefully high quality session. We know warm-ups can prevent injuries. So really, that's one of the big things. An athlete isn't going to develop in goalball if they don't have good court availability. This will give you the best court availability. And the last one, which just Jamie alluded to as well, with microdosing, it's really cool because if you do the warm-up regularly, and the warm-up we've put to regularly, your players will get fitter. And we've had the experience of working with the GB men's team in terms of getting these guys fitter. We've set ourselves a target for GB goalball to be the physically fittest goalball team in the world. And again, if we can get good habits at a grassroots level or a club level, just think how good our GB athletes are going to be into the future.
Yeah. One thing that we haven't talked about is what the parts of the warm-up consist of. So raise, activate, mobilize, and potentiate. We've done that. We're doing that in our second session of the conference this week. So there's a lot more information on what activities are included in each of those in the second session. So if you want to hear more about that or see the video, then please do come along to that session. So that's it really from us. I think some of the takeaway messages that we want to reinforce is that goalball players need to adopt good preparation and behaviours leading up to their events. So that's, as Dale and myself have talked about, is developing habits that become part of your daily makeup that allow you to perform at the best level possible whilst on the court. That's all this is about. That maybe means that good preparation includes managing your food, your stress, and your activity levels around work commitments, around school commitments, or around college commitments. You know, making sure that you've packed convenient foods to allow you to do that on the go, or you've eaten sufficient, or you've got your hydration right, and you're not leaving that till late. All of those things contribute to being a successful goalball player. And one of the things that we're trying to do, as Dale mentioned on the previous slide about championing this, is as coaches or support staff, we're the ones who should drive the bus on this. We're the ones who may need to educate our goalball players around good preparation and the importance of it, and how how maybe some of the strategies could be implemented within each individual's daily routine to make sure that they're able to do this successfully. Dale, do you want to finish up on anything on there?
Yeah, so to the whole Goalball family, the real message is that you don't have to be elite to mirror elite habits. And hopefully what we've covered today are a couple of strategies that you can take back to your clubs in a hope that you start embedding some of those elite habits in your context and give your athletes the best chance of being the best they can possibly be.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening. We'll have the Q&A session on Thursday evening, where your opportunity to unpick this a little bit with us, ask us any specific questions, and we very much look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much. Okay. How do you stop recording? Oh, there we go. Stop recording.